everyone, my name is Miriam Grant, and today I'm going to be talking about the fact that I believe addiction is a disease. Through many psychological studies, it has been scientifically proven that addiction is in fact a disease. Today, my goal is to shed light to the fact that addiction is a disease. Many people still believe that this is just an opinion rather than a fact. Addiction is a topic that most people have an opinion on, and I want to introduce people to the facts that a lot of others do not want to talk about. I was raised in a world where I was surrounded by recovering drug addicts, and it made me who I am today. So today I'm going to state facts that support the statement addiction is a disease, and I'll also discuss common statements that are against it. So to start off, we're going to talk about the definition of addiction. The definition of addiction is being enslaved to a habit. This can include any kind of habit. Addiction also can be looked as a dependency. This dependency is a synonym of addiction. Addiction does not mean only drugs and alcohol, though it can and does include food, sex, gambling, social media, etc. So you can have a dependency onto gambling or enslaved to social media. Those are all also addictions, just like drugs and alcohol would be. Now, looking at addiction as a disease, the American Psychological Association calls addiction a chronic disease. More specifically, I quote, "Addiction is a chronic disorder with biological, physiological, social, and environmental factors influencing the development and maintenance." So, more specifically, looking at addiction as a chronic disease, it is actually a chronic brain disease. Now, looking further into this, there is what scientists have called an addiction gene. So, diseases can be transmitted genetically and biologically. So, some genes can bond differently with different drugs for different people. Different bonds can release better rewards or not so much as a reward. So, more rewards for this bond means more addictive behaviors. This can be true for things like gambling and sex. Whenever you do these things, you get a rush in your brain and it releases a certain type of endorphins, and your brain can bond to those in a different way than others that release a better reward, and therefore you're more likely to be addicted to said things. Now, looking more into this area of the brain, it is your limbic system that it is focused on, which is your area for memory, emotion, and reward. More specifically, we're going to be looking at the reward center. The reward center is what causes the addiction. Reward centers actually helps humans survive by telling them what food is good to eat and what is not. When a human eats food that is good for them, it releases a better reward, telling them to eat this food again. The drug, however, plays with the center of the brain by tricking it and making it think that it's good, just like the food. So the reward center will release more reward for the drug, even though it's something bad for the body. And the body will start to think that it needs the drug. So this happens over time, and the nerve cells will change the way that they send messages in the brain, messing with the entire body. But this can happen over and over again, making it harder to end in the addiction the further in a person can get. So because this is a brain disease, it's a lifelong recovery. It's not something that as soon as a person gets over addiction and stops using or learns to control their addiction, it's not just going to go away. It's still there. They're still recovering. They're either going to be in active addiction or in active recovery. That's just how it is. It's either one or the other for them. But comparing addiction to other diseases, I actually got a quote from Dr. James Rowan from Wesleyan College, and he said, and I quote, "I think we would argue that most of the diseases like diabetes, heart disease, and cancer have strong genetic links. We don't blame the individual when they get those, even though part of their behavior probably contributes." We also don't say that they have the disease because of some personal weakness on their part. It's odd to consider addiction, even though we know it has strong genetic and biological components, any different than the others. To credit to him, he is a psychology professor and teaches specifically drugs and behavior class and a beauty and pleasure class that cover this topic. But going deeper into what he was talking about, people who have cancer, heart disease, and diabetes all can make choices such as smoking, eating high cholesterol foods, going and spending time in the wrong areas, just personal choices that can lead to their disease. However, their disease is still recognized as a disease, even though it was something to do with their own personal choices. So why would addiction be looked at differently? Because the biggest point against addiction is that it is a choice. So that leads us right into the next topic. That is what is one of the biggest things against addiction, is that people say addiction is a choice. This is commonly said about addicts, and that they have no sense of willpower. They did this to themselves. That's a very common thing that people are told. Yes, other people are able to pick up the drug and put it down and never use it again. Those people are not addicts. As explained before, if somebody is able to do this, then that means that they did not get as good a reward as other people who don't put it down afterwards. That's just the nature of drugs and how it works in the brain. Now, for the people who pick it up and can't put it down, they get told, well, they should have never picked it up in the first place. We were raised being told, don't do drugs. We were warned against it. And the person should have never picked it up. I agree. However, most people who pick up a drug have other psychological disorders that made them feel as though they needed to pick up the drug, such as depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety, etc. But people who are more susceptible to the disease, once the drug is picked up, they're done, and at that point, they're so far in that they can't come out, and that's when they need help, and it's recognized as a disease. So for people who have stopped using or stopped their addictive behavior and returned to it, they are told, well, they stopped before they started again, so that was their choice. However, they also get told they were clear-minded enough, they should have not picked that drug or habit up again. It's their own fault. As stated before, addiction is a lifelong disease, and this person will be in a lifelong recovery. They could have had something like a stressor, something that made them feel depressed or anxious that made them feel as though they needed to return to those old habits. This is an addict behavior. Sadly, it's a common thing to happen, but that's part of addiction when you're looking at it. So, looking at addiction overall, looking at all the facts, I will always believe that addiction is a disease. More specifically, it is a chronic brain disease that can be treated but not cured. I've seen this disease up close and personal, and it can have nasty effects on people's lives if not taken seriously. So next time, consider what's going on with a person's life that has in active addiction before judging them based off of what you see on the outside. So thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, you can comment below. Thank you and have a great afternoon. Bye.